easy, gently sneak into the house under the transom there, like some strange poison gas from some lost and gone world. Bring it up. Say, speaking of poison gas, I have been noting with some interest. I've been noting with some interest the fantastic proliferation of deodorant commercials on every conceivable medium and of every conceivable type of deodorant. That's all it's just unbelievable. And, well, no, it isn't unbelievable. It's believable. Because all you got to do is turn on any channel, and there it is, They're going poof. Every place you go, they're squirting each other. By the way, do you remember the great boo-boo on the commercial at the time? It was on one of the big network shows. It was one of the first gigantic, total fiascos that ever happened on network television. When they first had network TV, how many of you remember that? Speaking of great, remember that time? It was on, I believe, the Milton Berle show. And one of their sponsors was a deodorant. And the deodorant that they had was there's always a constant battle in these deodorant commercials. One group says that dry deodorants go all the way, and the other says a soft, soothing cream deodorant. That is the only way to do it. It soothes your skin. And so this particular show had, and this is a network, of course, this particular show had as a sponsor one of these deodorants that come poofing out of a little thing. Say it goes poof like that. And the guy said, and it was live. You see, this is one of the reasons why everything is taped now. And here they are, 5,000 stations, and it's Class A time, and everybody's waiting, and it's the biggest show in the world. And the guy says, and now, friends, here's whoever the announcer was. He says, and now, friends, here's why you should get rid of all those old, rotten, stinking cream deodorants in your house. And then, boom, on comes the wrong commercial. But it wasn't the wrong commercial. It was for another deodorant, which was totally anti the deodorant which they were selling. It would be as if the Ford Motor Show came on with a beautiful, fantastic Chevy commercial that denounced Fords. Oh, I flipped. I'll tell you, I was sitting there. How I happen to know that, see, I was working at a TV station, and my TV show came not long after that in time. That is, it was about 2 hours after that, and I was sitting there watching a monitor, working with some guy, and all of a sudden on came the wrong commercial. And it just played all the way through, you see. And when it was over, the announcer, he didn't say anything. He just sort of looked a little funny. You remember, speaking of announcers, I'm going to ask you a question, speaking of trivia. We're developing our own mythology in our own time. It's a very important mythology anyway, and we live by it. And I'll ask you some genuine trivia questions. It just occurred to me. What was the name of the announcer who was very big? He was on everything. He's a fantastically big announcer. And he was on a lot of these big shows, like You Hit the Ding Dong, Bang the Wingy, Bop the Buoy, and there's thousands of game shows. I don't know whoever watches those, but they used to be on Class A time. You remember people took game shows seriously, and they were on at night, like To Tell the Truth and all that stuff. Well, his name was George. It still is, no doubt. You don't remember a big announcer named George? He was on all these. I'll give you a clue. He was particularly on the Groucho Marx show. Now, I'll ask you another one. There was an announcer who did all these Chesterfield commercials, and they were done live. And he had kind of odd-looking eyes, so he looked a little bit like a vaguely dissipated Arnold Palmer. And he did these commercials, but he was really, in actuality, an architect. And after he made a pot of dough doing Chesterfield commercials on all these different live shows they used to have, he went back and I guess he's architecting. What was his name? He's very famous. These guys were really big. And who was the newscaster? It was a guy that came on who was a newscaster all the time. This was before Dave and Chet made it big. And there was a newscaster who would come on all the time. He had this big flower in a buttonhole. And he would say, "And a good evening." Who was that? He had that strange high delivery. And then he would say, "And that's the news. A good evening." Who was that? "A good evening, everybody." Come on. This was back in the days when no self-respecting newscaster used any less than 3 names in his name. In other words, his name was Charlie Wesley Brown. You just didn't call yourself Dave and Chet. This was back in the bombastic days of news, when H.V. Coltonbone was still around. By the way, that was his delivery, too. I can do that pretty well, can't I? H.V. Coltonbone and the news. Yeah. Have a good evening. But these are all part of our time. And, speaking of part of our time, the reason I mentioned this deodorant, only in America. Now, it's finally happened, friends. I mean, let's assume now that the 2 major concerns in America today are hair. That's the other commercial that you see, hair, fantastic hair commercials. Hair and deodorants, right? And so we want to salute America, who's finally achieved the final statement in the deodorizing world. And man, finding solace in democracy, marching forward up the great ladder of progress, man in these United States is ever reaching for the total ultimate antiseptic beauty. Hooray, 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 hooray. And so tonight, on our American Moves Forward moment in our vast program of public service, we would like to salute the tiny community in Wisconsin, Beloit, Wisconsin, the first in America to do what eventually all major communities will have to do if we truly believe in deodorants. Friends, do you smell the way you think you should smell? Do your friends smell the way they should smell? Aren't you glad they don't? Or aren't you glad they do? Or aren't you glad you tried? Aren't you glad you did it? And aren't you glad now for 24 hours you can do everything? This is Rocky Marciano. All right, gang. Now listen carefully. Tonight we want you to mull this over, because we've felt for a long time, so I'm getting my H.V. Coltonborn voice here, we've felt for a long time that true progress never really happens in the major cities because there's too many fist-fighting dissident groups. That's why New York City today remains the oldest and truly the most archaic city in America. It's truly an old-fashioned city. It's the only city where garbage piles up in great drifts on 6th Avenue, just exactly the way that it piled up, let's say, on the average street in ancient walled London. At about the time the Celts stopped painting their ears blue, they still pile the garbage up, just like the way we pile garbage up. And the sewage system in New York, which from time to time gets fantastically aromatic. And for those of you who don't know, one of New York's more interesting phenomena, particularly in the summertime, that as you probably are aware, or maybe you've heard rumors, New York has a larger dog population than people population. And, good hot day here in New York, and the sun is hanging high, and you understand that when the mayor, whoever he happens to be in at the time, keeps hollering it's Fun City, he's talking about the fun that comes from being a broken field runner. That it's a lot of fun to run down, say, 6th Avenue trying to catch a bus, and you're threading your way, you're hopping like some nut going over the stepping stones of a rushing river. You make one false step and forget it. Listen, I remember one very embarrassing moment out. It was not really in a moment. It was just kind of a peculiar, embarrassing scene. It was not really just a moment. I was at this beautiful East Side restaurant with about 10 people. And the They were very elegant people. These were the the kind of girls who arched their neck like Audrey Hepburn, and all the men who have their hair teased like Joe Pepitone, and here we were at this beautiful restaurant. It's the kind of restaurant, well, not really beautiful. I for one thing, I cannot stand restaurants that have this red velvet on the walls. Any red velvet walled restaurant, walk the other way, friend. The food is pure cardboard, and the gravy is pure oleo. And this is the truth. But yet, so many of these would-be plush restaurants actually believe that plush means plush. So they put plush all over everything. I mean, real plush. And so you order a fillet of sole, and you get this little fish that's got plush on the bottom of it. It's green plush usually, but terrible tonight. But nevertheless, we're all sitting around this place. We're sitting around this awful moment. I mean, maybe I shouldn't tell you this. This was New York, and it's more elegant. New York really. In other words, the way life really is. We tend to think of the past as being so colorful. You see these movies like A Lion in Winter, or even movies about the Renaissance time, which is even later. They always show these beautiful, spectacular costumes and all these guys wearing these Elizabethan ruffs and all that. Well, I hope you understand, friend, that the plumbing wasn't very good in those days there. And that not only that, they didn't have showers. At the dial with the hydrochlorohexachlorophene had not yet been invented. And the dry cleaning they knew not from. And so you get a crowded floor of ballroom type people all dancing the minuet with Well, all right, I'm just telling you the truth. I'm laying it out. Bad news. Speaking of the truth, well, I think we ought to salute America. And when you mention important things, of course, you just got to bring in the flag. Bring it up there. Oh, forever and upward we are marching. Forever, ever upward we will go. Ho, ho, ho. That's not a bad little song. Yeah, that reminds me. Speaking of marching upward, this is WR, Dad. And we're in Fun City. You be sure to bring your rubber boots here, though, when you come. And but nevertheless, I was at this beautiful restaurant. We're all sitting around, and the waiter, this waiter, he comes over and he says, "Would you have a drink?" And of course, everybody orders a drink, and we'd all gathered, see, from various parts of Fun City, various parts of the Hoti-Mondi world, had gathered. Or is it Haute Monde? Or is it the Haute Monde? But anyway, we had gathered. I'm sorry. We had gathered in this little gathering there, and they brought the martinis, and it was just about that time I began to detect an aroma. It was not really an aroma; it was an aura, an atmosphere, just hanging over the table. And I could see funny looks coming on the faces of all these elegant people. 10 of us sat there. And, well, I just won't carry it any further. I don't have to. Somebody on the way over had made the wrong step. And it just killed the whole afternoon. This is a bad lunch, and it just didn't work out good. But these things you take in stride, and it's part of modern living. That we must salute Beloit, Wisconsin. However, I repeat, friends, if you think that New York or whatever it is you're living here in the East is really on top of it, I'm going to again propose my famous inverse theory of progress. That the more a city is applauded for progress, the less progressive it is. This is also Shepard's inverse theory of how to decipher commercials. That any time a commercial constantly tells you that they have improved the taste, look out, they've just had a bad run. That's right. Anytime they tell you a new low price, look out, friends. You are going to get your wings clipped like a pigeon. You're going to be a walking pigeon the next time you come out of that joint. Anytime an outfit says, you have a friend at, be careful. There's a whole bunch of prunes standing around there waiting to talk to you, and it's run by a crab, right? You ain't got no friend there. In short, that's Shepard's, really the Shepard law of the inverse hard selling point. I repeat, if you're asked about this, that's Shepard's law of the inverse hard sell point. Meaning, whatever the point, the hard sell point of a commercial is, that's the one thing you're not going to get in that product because they're worried about it, see. In fact, I can just see these guys in this big big board meeting, and Mr. Bullard walks in, bangs on the desk. All right, you guys, let's get going here now. Okay. I have here a report from the Motivational Research Corporation of the Western Hemisphere. And quit picking your nose, will you, BG? Now, it says right here, the Motivational Research Point says, and I read this to you now verbatim, and it says, trouble with your gasoline is it don't get no mileage. Your gasoline averages 9.5 miles less per gallon than any other gasoline. What are you putting in it? Well, gentlemen, we cannot put in our commercials that we're making our gasoline out of fermented skunk cabbage. That's our secret ingredient. I know that we call it the secret ingredient XD422LDF. They know that. But you can't come out and tell the people yours is skunk cabbage. They won't believe it. And if they do believe it, they won't like it because it smells bad and nobody likes skunks, right? All right, so what do we got to do? We got to have an image. I'm reading in a magazine here, everybody's got to have an image. What the hell is an image, JL? Right, an image is what people see when they look at you, right? They don't know that you're a rotten bum underneath. They only know what they see, right? Right, all right. Now, from here on, every one of our commercials is going to have to say, and this is my memo. My girl is already passing out a memo. Please pass the memo out, will you, Elizabeth, to the men's? All right. My memo reads, from now on, we say nothing about the gas except it gets more mileage. Now, we ain't going to say more mileage than what? Just gets more mileage. More mileage, that's all. And if any smart guy comes over and asks you to get more mileage than what, we say more mileage than water. It does. You try to run your Plymouth on water, where you go? Nowhere. You try to run it on our gas, you'll get some mileage, and it's more than you get on water, right? So technically, we're correct in saying we get more mileage. We do not say we get more mileage than Esso. We do not say we get more mileage than, what's the name of that outfit? Phillips, Phillips 28, or some other, that gas there. We don't say we get more mileage than them. We get more mileage. From here on, every commercial that we got says we get more mileage. You understand, man? More mileage. And once again, the American free enterprise spirit marches on. Man always able to overcome the most troublesome of difficulties in his way. Man, the spirit of free man, marches forward. Yeah, very good, very good. Now, another thing, of course, that's a part of it, I can imagine the guy getting mugged on a street in Brooklyn, say, and in spite of the fact he used dial, he was supposed to be safe for 24 hours. Well, all right, quit it. I'm just laughing at my own gag. It's terrible. But nevertheless, I can see this scene going on when these guys are deciding to write up the commercial on more mileage. It's important. Now, for example, this happens in movies. Now, you've watched and no doubt heard 5,000 movie commercials, haven't you, Herb? Oh, man. I mean, have you ever heard a movie commercial tell you about the movie that you actually saw? when you went down there, when you bit it, you took the bait, you went down and saw that clinker? Oh, no. Here's the way they always go. Bring me some good, big, heavy... No, marching music, Herb. Very big marching music. The Erotica Pictures Corporation of North America presents Lesbia O'Toole in Hearts Aflame. Yes, only once in a generation are we privileged to witness a motion picture that speaks for all time, for all men, with a cast of millions. Lesbia O'Toole, the girl that brought you Hot Diggity Dog, now brings you new insight and beauty. Yes, Hearts Aflame is now playing at your neighborhood theaters at special advanced reserved seat prices. Hearts Aflame was filmed in widescreen errata-color with the special new Superscope techniques. 4,000-track multi-duplex boomeroonie stereos. Lesbia O'Toole is the work of 375,000 man-hours by 4 of the top Pulitzer Prize-winning authors of our time. Suzanne says it's groovy. Harold Urich says, what a gas. The Village Voice says, oh boy, is it a good one. And so, once again, Erotica Pictures brings you another important milestone in the movie world. Don't forget, see Lesbia O'Toole in Hearts Aflame. Now, isn't that exciting? How can you ignore that? And then, of course, when you go down to see it, you're sitting in the drive-in, and the rain is coming down, and the beer cans are bouncing off your hood, and you can hardly see, the screen for all the birds that are flying overhead in Jersey. And, have you ever had the feeling that Bosley Crowther sees different movies than you do? Or that the Village Voice movie critic is more underground than you are? And so everywhere we go, you see, we're vaguely bugged by the fact or by the subtle suspicion that we are inadequate. Have you ever found the 24-hour deodorant that did it? That actually did what they said they do? Well, I just thought I'd ask a question. Have you ever been transported to another world of total ecstatic taste delight when you give the magic sign at your favorite bar and they bring you the beer? It turns out to be sort of half lukewarm and vaguely flat, and it's green-colored around the edges. Do you feel that other people are enjoying things more than you are? And I mean real things. I mean total things. Like, have you noticed, for example, in commercials when they show guys driving new cars? Wouldn't you like to find some of the roads that they drive them on in those commercials? Where the sea is eternally off to your left, and those trees are waving, and this chick is driving this, this wide tracking monster, and her hair is floating back in the breeze. There's never any traffic. There's never any trucks that cut them off and guys that yell at them. None of that stuff. No, that's it. Like the other day, I saw one of the sad little sights you see constantly everywhere you look. There was a brand new 2-seated sport car. I happen to be a sports car driver myself, but it had in very high-styled stainless steel lettering on the side, Tiger. The little arrow running through it, an umlaut over the E. Tiger. And there it was. It was up on its front wheels, and a battered Brooklyn tow truck had hoisted up the back end. The rain was dripping off of it. I mean, that's the total defeat of the dream, friends. I mean, the total defeat. Because most of the things we buy, we feel that it will now fill in the chink. It will now make the difference. A guy that buys, for example, a tapered, waisted Edwardian suit feels that magically he will become tapered waisted. When he ultimately turns out actually to look like a bowling pin with ruffles. Yeah. Oh, yes, the girls are constantly... I wonder how girls react to the new commercials, that maintain that girls have come a long way. And if you get the right cigarette now, you're making the final statement, not like the fat ones that men smoke. Who wants to smoke fat cigarettes that men smoke? You know how men are. And you buy this package of cigarettes and you start smoking them. It clouds up your contact lenses. The filter gets caught in your braces. And you smoke 3 packs and you turn out still to be a chick afterwards. Nothing's happened. General Motors hasn't called up to make you chairman of the board, do the fun things that men do. And these are problems. I know in fact, I talked to a lady the other day who was so bugged, she's organizing a new campaign. She wants to go and burn down the, what was that famous suffragette's name? Susan B. Anthony. She wants to go and burn down the Susan B. Anthony Memorial. She says that Susan B. Anthony fought to bring equal rights to ladies. And she says, and now she's the victim of it. She's working 15 hours a day at the agency. She has ulcers that start about 3 feet above the top of her head and work all the way down into the ground. She's been fired 8 times. She keeps getting tickets on the Long Island Expressway just like men. And she's bugged. Well, of course, this is part of the dream. And we'd like to tonight salute Beloit, Wisconsin. Now, you'd probably think, being a true Easterner, that Beloit, Wisconsin is a city wallowing in rustic verities, right? How wrong you are. In fact, the only place I know where rustic verities pertain are in the East, where little old ladies down on Hudson Street collect oil lamps. And they oh yeah, you go up and down Greenwich now, and you can buy almost anything that was thrown out of a farmhouse 40 years ago. It's now being sold on 3rd Avenue for maybe $200. You know what doilies are going for down there? You ought to see the guys that buy the doilies, but that's something else. That's another problem. We won't even get into that. In fact, some of the nicer ones are making their own doilies, gangs. Even making shirts out of them. But that's another story. And so tonight, we would like to take this opportunity to salute Beloit, Wisconsin. Hooray, hooray, hooray for little old Beloit, Wisconsin. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Beloit, Wisconsin. The city council in this southern Wisconsin community has now authorized the purchase and the first known in the United States of a giant citywide spray deodorant. Now listen, think about that for a minute. Beloit, Wisconsin is the first city in the entire country to totally deodorize itself. Municipally. A giant spray deodorant. And to make sure, it says the $5,000 unit will be attached to the sewage disposal plant downtown and will blow beautiful atmospheres all over the city for 24 hours a day for 1 year. Now, it just had to come. It's just got to come. Now, not the... What is one of our other fears now? What's the other fear that man has? Smelling bad, right? That's one fear. You know, I suspect eventually there will be city-sponsored dating bureaus. How's that for a prediction? I mean, no, I'm serious. People today are constantly striving for government or federal or local aid for whatever needs they've got, right? And so now we have Medicare. That takes care of you if you got a bad knee. We now have Social Security that takes care of you if you're scratching. You got unemployment insurance, all these things. Well, what is it that really bugs people? Well, especially in the big city. Finding a chick, right? Correct. Well, who is keeping happiness, true happiness, away from the citizens of New York, right? All right, this non-progressive city administration that does not realize the true needs of the Martys of this town. I say today, and I tell you as a candidate for the office of mayor of the city of New York, that every Marty in this town will have a date 1 week after I get in office. Every Marsha in this town will have herself a doctor. And I'll tell you this, there will be no lonely people in New York City. The Bureau of Federal and State and Welfare Matrimonial Adjustment will be underway 1 week after I get in office and give you true Social Security. What is meant by social? Money? How no? You need Social Security when you're 65 and too old to enjoy it? No, you need Social Security when you're 22 and go to CCNY. And that's when I'm going to give it to you. Social Security. Hooray, 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 hooray. Kind of nice. I kind of like that idea. I bet a lot of people would vote for that one. Yeah, I've come up with some pretty good ideas here tonight. All right, George, let's see. Got the internet. Oh, gee whiz, just think how Jersey could use one of those statewide deodorants. Just free gravy. And by the way, speaking of Jersey, I have to apologize to Jersey. Just have to apologize. I did a bad thing. I've been saying bad stuff about Jersey for a long time. And I received a letter, and it says, Dear Shep, why do you always say bad stuff about the Garden State? I'll have to read it the way, in the language of the people. Why do you always say bad things when you mention the Garden State? Did you know, Shep, one, that New Jersey had the first national beauty contest? Two, that the first professional baseball game was played in Hoboken in 1846. And three, that New Jersey had the first China for restaurant use. I repeat, the first China for restaurant use was in New Jersey. And four, that New Jersey had the country's first brewery. Add five, and this is the clincher. You can't beat this nowhere, Shep. The first tomato was eaten in New Jersey. Wise up, you bum. I just... I apologize, Jersey. I did not realize what you had contributed to us. The first tomato was eaten in New Jersey. And I just, it just kind of clouds up when I think of the things. And the first baseball game was played in Jersey for professional. You notice that in Jersey there were the first guys to play for Doe. That's right. That's good old Jersey. And, the first national beauty contest was held in Jersey. These things, you can't ignore them. These are true American things. You just can't. And so tonight, in total contradiction to what we've said before, I want to apologize to Jersey. I want to apologize to Hoboken, which I think is one of the most beautiful towns I've ever seen. And I'd like to apologize to to South Orange. And Plainfield. I mean, Plainfield is beautiful. And I'd like to apologize to Route 9. And most of all, I'd like to apologize to Route 22. Route 22, oh, how you go. Oh, Route 22, Avenue of Beauty. Oh, Route 22, we salute thee tonight. Oh, Route 22 and Dennis Claudius, we doff our cap to thee. Oh, Leaning Tower of Pizza, oh, Pat Boone, Hamburger Heaven. We stand in awe before the Route 3 Drive-In. And so tonight, we doff our cap in simple, humble humility. We doff our cap to Jersey. We doff our cap to all the residents of Jersey. We say to thee, whether thou livest in Bloomfield, whether thou subsidest in Raspberry Park, we salute thee, O Jersey. Oh, hooray, hooray, oh, hooray, for Governor Hughes. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Oh, Jersey, we salute thee all the way. Oh, marching forever to the two guys from Harrison, we will go, always, always on our way. We will march up and down Route 46, 46. Oh, the Dairy Queen is ours, 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 ours. Hooray for Carvel ice cream. Oh, Sears, Norfolk, and Route 1. Hooray, oh, New Brunswick, New Brunswick, New Brunswick, lovely. Quack, 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 quack. Oh, Clifton, you are magnifique, magnifique. Oh, King Apple, oh, send the flag. Joycey. We doff our caps to thee. Oh, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. We say as we roller skate on Route 9, oh, Garden Park, State Parkway. We know they bring us all to life, beauty, but touch it. Oh, hooray, Plainfield. We salute Chatham Beach. Oh, Chadwick, we know thee. By the floating garbage that floats on your sea. Oh, no, Chadwick Beach. Oh, Theo. Oh, Neptune. Oh, McCutcheon. Oh, Plainfield. Oh, yeah. Oh, Long Branch, we know thee. Right flag, higher than, oh, anybody. Oh, hooray for the mafia. A major opportunity for you. Oh, hooray for Joycey. Stand up, march around the table in Plainfield. Hooray, 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 hooray! Jersey. Oh, that was good. Gee, that was exciting. And I hope all of you people, who live in Jersey realize that I didn't mean it ever. I mean, I really didn't. It's not every state that I have saluted. And, well, no, I'm very serious about that. And I worked for weeks writing that little song for, to salute our good friends over there in the Garden State. And I hope you understand that. Oh, by the way, one more thing. I think that area where you come out, you come out of the Harlem Tunnel, you make that sweep around Newark Airport. And you go sweeping up there towards Route 22, along past 1 and 9 there, and that fantastic. You're going through on the right there as you head out past the airport. The airport's on your left, and on the right is this great rolling field that has all these sunflowers and marijuana seeds growing in it. And And I'm not kidding. You read about the poor kid that went over to Jersey to in the fields over there, and he's trying to harvest pot. Did you read about him? They picked up this kid with a gunny sack full of ragweed. He thought he was picking pot. They didn't know what to do to him, you know. After all, they found that. I mean, can you get a guy for intent? You know. And so, you know what they should have done? They should have let him take it home and let him smoke ragweed for about 2 weeks, boy. And that, I'll tell you, that would cure him of pot quicker than anything I know. Oh yeah, but before we, I don't want to be misinterpreted. That I really don't. And I never realized that Jersey had the first beauty contest in America. And so for all these reasons, I just hope that tonight's salute to Jersey warmed the cockles of your heart. I mean, made you feel a little better. And bring up that big Herb. Not easy. I mean, I'm first concede it's not easy. Just the first. Bring up those bugles, please. You will, Herbert? Now, you see how soul-filling and satisfying this was, wasn't it? Well, you know, it's just chock-a-block full of deep, rich nutrients. And I'd like to point out that tonight's program contained our new secret ingredient, Exhilaro, which, if taken often enough and taken in regular quantities, as prescribed by your doctor, will eventually prove to be the answer to most of those aches and pains which have been troubling you in the lower back region. So I would suggest, friends, that in the next 24 hours, let's cross our fingers and maybe you will be safe. I would also suggest that you buy yourself a tin hat and get in shape and, buy yourself a pair of track shoes and you may be just that, safe. Oh, hooray, hooray, large Herb, all the way out now. Goodbye, gang. Hang loose.